Up next for team previews, we've got the Columbus Blue Jackets. You're going to want to watch this one. There's a lot of fantasy nuggets in here. So Columbus, a really good fantasy team last year. They're still a good fantasy team in terms of what their fantasy value should be. 4th overall for the projection for 25-26. And what this is a combined rating of their top 12 forwards and their top 6D. So this tells you how many fantasy players there are and what the total fantasy value is for their team. Now, their team defense is not that great. 15.2 percentile. That's really bottom of the league, and you don't really want exposure to their goaltenders, but there is a caveat to that. We'll get to that in a second. In terms of additions and subtractions, you've got Charlie Coyle coming in, Zach Aston Reese coming in. Not a ton going on there, but they lose Justin Danforth, Luke Cunnin, JVR, Sean Corrali, maybe Kevin LeBanc. A couple of these guys had some fantasy impact, but not really. JVR every now and then would score some goals. But in terms of fantasy relevancy, there's a lot to be had in Columbus. So you've got Boone Jenner, very complete, category coverage beast. Wasn't healthy last year, 19 points in 26 games, but on a per game level, really elite in terms of hits, some power play exposure, shots, goals, assists, all the things you want. Boone Jenner is also usually dual position eligible, so he's a really good category league player. I would definitely look at him in that 8th to 12th round range if you're in a category league. For Kirill Marchenko, really good season last year, 74 points in 79 games, 31 goals, 19 power play points. So basically 90th percentile or better in all of the offensive metrics. He's definitely good for points leagues because of all of this. If you just play with these offensive metrics, he's even more valuable. He should be penciled in on their top line, if not top 6, and definitely top power play. Sean Monahan having a career resurgency in recent years, 57 points in 54 games, over a point per game. Really decent power play numbers, shot volume, assists, and goals. 57 points in 54 is obviously really good, but 19 goals, not bad either. 38 assists, 14 power play points. So he's fantasy relevant. You also have Adam Fantilli, who's entering into that prime age range. He's got 54 points in 82, but 31 of those were goals, which is nice to see. 2.33 shots per game, 94th percentile in goals, and he does hit 1.38 hits per game. A little bit surprising, but that's what you like to see out of a player like him. Speaking of hits, we've got Matthew Olivier, 3.73 hits per game, pretty much a specialist there, but he did have 18 goals last year. I wouldn't necessarily count on him for that this year, but you're definitely getting the hits, and there's potential for goal scoring there. Dmitry Voronkov occasionally is fantasy relevant, 47 points in 73 games, 23 goals, 24 assists. Decent shot volume, 2.11 is not great, not terrible. Goals per game, 88th percentile. He used to, when he first came into the league, hit a little bit more than this, but he's around a hit per game, which isn't bad. We do have to wait and see what they're going to do about Yegor Chinnikov. He is a really decent fantasy player when he's in a good situation. He might get shipped out before the season starts. 15 points in 30 games, 7 goals, 8 assists, 5 power play points. 1.57 hits is impressive from him, 2.27 shots. So wherever he ends up, if he ends up back in Columbus, he's still a weapon that they can use. You also have Kent Johnson. Shot volume a little bit low for me, but 57 points in 68 games is very impressive. 0.84 points per game, 92nd percentile in goals. He gets some power play points, 15 on the season last year. So look at the guys that we just covered: Jenner, Marchenko, Monahan, Fantilli, Yegor Chinnikov, Kent Johnson. All of these guys are at least draftable players in a 12-team league, and this is just their forward group. You also have to look at their D. Zach Werenski had a coming out party last year. We've known that he had this potential. He just never stayed healthy. 82 points in 81 games, elite level shot volume, 3.68 shots per game, 1.62 blocks. Power play numbers were great, 25 power play points. I would just give you a word of caution that he does have injury history, and I would hope that he can continue this production. The shot volume is the key there. He does shoot the puck. He's always shot the puck, so the goals will be there. 23 goals is excellent last year. He could potentially follow that up, but I wouldn't necessarily expect this level of fantasy value. Last year, you could get him in the 10th round. This year, you're going to probably get him in the 4th or 5th round, so be aware of that. However, in the past, he's never had a team this good to work with, and now he has a team to work with, so that could potentially impact his numbers. In terms of other fantasy defensemen, there's not a whole lot I would want. You've got Fabro for blocks, 98th percentile. You've got Provorov for blocks, 89th percentile, a couple assists there. Nothing crazy. Any of these guys I wouldn't really want. Denton Matejchuk, same type of thing, but just lower numbers across the board. When we take a look at their line combinations, this is how it shakes out right now. According to Daily Faceoff, you've got Jenner, Monahan, Marchenko, Voronkov, Fantilli, Johnson. That's an excellent top 6 for fantasy value. Cole Sillinger, he's still a young up-and-coming player. Charlie Coyle, Matthew Olivier, that should be a decent third line. And then Chinakhov, Lundestrom, and Wood. This is probably why Chinakhov wants out. I did forget to mention that Miles Wood comes over along with Charlie Coyle. This is a very strong offensive team. The problem has been defense. Werenski and Fabro looked pretty good last year. Matejchuk had his growing pains last year. They just re-signed Provorov to a massive deal that I think was a little bit of an overpayment, but at least they've solidified their D. Severson and Gabranson is not bad for a third pair. So that brings us to goaltending. What is the goaltending going to look like? Last year, it was pretty terrible. This year, you're looking at Jet Greaves. This is the guy I've got my eye on for this upcoming season. He had a small sample size last year, only 8 games, but he won 4 of them. He got a 2.4 goals against average, 921 save percentage, a shutout. He might have had another one. This might be outdated by a day or two, but he played excellent in a small sample size. And Merzlikins hasn't been good, and he hasn't been good for a while. 892 save percentage, 3.2 goals against. 26 wins is not bad, but that's the team. The team in front of him was playing really well, albeit not defensively. He's well below expected. He's had a lot of, kicks at the can, and he just cannot take that number 1 role and become even a mid-pack guy. So with that, I would take a late round flyer on Jet Greaves if you want that upside for goaltending. If you're in a keeper league and you're looking for a goalie of the future at absolute bargain prices, Jet Greaves could potentially become their starter, and you could get him at extreme value. Now, word of caution, very small sample size. We saw this with Devin Levi come in, look really great at the end of the year, and then just fell apart pretty much since then. So do want to give you a word of caution. This is high risk, high reward, but look at these numbers. 921 save percentage, 2.4 goals against on a team with a terrible defense. I think he had 2 shutouts. I could be wrong about that. But this is a guy I've got my eye on in terms of goaltending. The team stats from last year, 7th in goals for. That's what you love to see. 25th in goals against. They need to improve that. If they can improve this number a little bit and just keep goals for the same, they should be a playoff team. 89 points last year. I could see them getting up to that 96 point range that Calgary was at last year and making a push for a playoff spot. This is a young and up and coming team. If they can get rid of this goals against number or at least improve it a little bit, they should be in the playoff hunt. And that means that they are probably going to have a lot of guys that you might want to own in fantasy that aren't going to the Olympics. Look at this lineup and tell me which one of these guys is going to go to the Olympics. I mean, there's not a whole lot there, so they're going to be fresh and rested down the stretch. That could be huge fantasy value. This is why this is a team that I'm looking at in terms of trying to pluck guys to fill my roster. There's a number of guys here for category leagues that I would want, and this is definitely a good file in general. So keep your eye on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Keep your eye out for the next installment of team previews, and if you haven't already, take a look. I have done a full breakdown of points league strategy and category league strategy based on your survey results. So go check that out in the deep analysis section of the channel. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.